Hey, Lena, I want to welcome you to the Studio Chat podcast today. How are you?
I am so excited for this conversation.
Thank you. I've been wanting, you're my first guest on my Studio Chat podcast. And ever since I've met you online, I just really feel that the listeners that have already connected to my podcast will get so much value out of what you've got to say. And I just like you on a personal note, when I follow you, I really resonate with you and what you do.
I appreciate that so much. It always feels so good when you know you are connected to somebody energetically that gets you. And I get really excited to record conversations with women that express that, because I know you're going to go beyond the surface questions and you're going to ask me some things that not only help me to share what I want to share, but also like reflect on the parts of myself that maybe I haven't been conscious of. So I'm really open for this.
Oh, thanks, Lena. Well, for those of my listeners that don't know who you are, would you be able to share a little bit about who Lena is and actually what you do?
I would love to have an answer to that question, Barbs. I think, that's the greatest question, right? Isn't that what we're all confused about in this life? No, thank you. I'd love to talk a little about who I am today and what means most to me. So I guess like professionally, I would say I am a business owner. This season has seen me transition away from being front and center of the businesses that I own and operate, and online as a life purpose, manifestation, mindset, guide, and embodiment advocate, I guess. So I've used my life, my lived experience, the ups and downs of all of that, as well as the 15 years that I have devoted myself to the world of personal development. I've had the great fortune of studying under and training alongside some of the big names in personal development. A quick example I can give of that: this year I'm currently participating in Tony Robbins' Inner Circle, and that's been amazing. And so I've got to this point in my life where I realized I've had 15 years of devoted study under some of the best practitioners that share teachings on mindset and manifestation, and coupled with, a solid 15 years, my whole adult life, of experimenting and playing within my businesses, within my relationships, just within the world. And I feel like I have a lot to say, a lot to share. And that's what I do now. I coach women in group programs and one-on-one sessions to kind of support them in accessing their own truth and, I guess, shedding the conditioning that had been placed on them in this life, and getting really excited about who they can be when they step up consciously as a leader within their own life.
Wow, you're such a powerful force, and that's why I love talking to you, because my eyes, people can see my eyes right now, I'm just like glued, like a little kid watching cartoons. I'm just so glued to what you've got to say. But the reason why I'm so honored to have you on here is because you can share a part in your life that I at the moment cannot resonate with some of my clients and some of my listeners, because right now I'm not a mum. I am to my little fur baby, but I'm not. What I love about you, and I'd love you just to give an insight to my listeners. Say I've got a listener who is a mum, who is married, has the family life, may work for someone else or have a business, but she feels there's two ways I can look at this. There's the first ladies that just are on that hamster wheel and they don't know that they can have anything different because they are the leaders of the household. They're the mum. They've got to put everyone else first. They come last. And so it's just not even a question of how do I feel and what do I want. Then I also want you to speak to those ladies that right now are listening to this, and they, whatever stage in their life, as a mum and as a wife or with a partner, feel stuck and are like, would you have any advice for them to say to them, hey, if you're a mum or you're a business owner and you have a partner in that, if you feel stuck, what would be a bit of advice or a bit of a golden nugget that you can give to them to look at that next step?
My favorite conversation. I really think I show up as evidence for the woman that thinks she's made certain choices in her life that mean she is positioned in a way that gives her no choice but to play out the rest of her life in the way she's been set up to do that. So that might mean you've studied a certain thing and you have a certain job and your whole identity has been built around what you do for work and maybe the provision that provides for your family. It could be that you've married a certain person and you've devoted yourself to the idea of what it means to be in a marriage and what it means to be a person that values family. And even though your soul isn't satisfied within that relationship, you've been convinced that, well, sometimes we just have to settle for what we've got. It could mean many things. And I suppose I'm the evidence that at any point in your life, you get to decide for yourself. I'm really curious about what more might be not only available for me, but what else might come through me if I stop telling myself the story that I know who I am and everything that I've experienced up until this point is all that is available for me. I think the biggest starting point for everybody would be to really acknowledge within themselves the knowing that we're really confused about who we are as women in this modern world. And there's studies that show, I think it's Dr. Joe Dispenza that says by the time we're about 35 years old, 95% of who we are has been borrowed. And that means it's a makeup of what our family has told us, potentially what religion has made us believe, what society has suggested we should do. And we actually haven't consciously chosen the makeup of who we are and who we are to be. And that's a really confronting thing to think about. But the good news is, when we have the awareness of the fact that who we are experiencing ourselves as is starting to feel a little bit clunky, a little bit uncomfortable, a little bit unsatisfying, we actually do get to work out how can I courageously activate the part of myself that just wants to get to know myself again and wants to be in conversation with the parts of me that are actually longing for something more. Not necessarily better. We don't have to shame what we have in order to activate that next part of our life. But we do get to decide for ourselves. Up until this point, I've been a good daughter, a good friend, a good wife, a good employee, and now I want to be good to myself. And I think what stops most women from actually deciding I'm going to be good to myself is that we feel and fear that in order to do that, we have to let a lot of people down around us. And as women, we know that's not something that we're positioned to do powerfully. We feel deeply uncomfortable about the idea that we might hurt somebody or let somebody down or inconvenience somebody, God forbid, with the weight of our own truth. And why I say I'm the evidence of that is I'm very much a woman who created a whole lot of destruction and chaos and damage within the world as I knew it, in the process of just deciding for myself I wanted to see what else there could be. And unfortunately for me and everybody else involved, I didn't have the clarity, or maybe I didn't have the internal resource, or I didn't have the belief that I could do it in a way that would be supportive and uplifting. And I cleared a path for myself in a way that was destructive and damaging. And that part of the story, I think, becomes irrelevant. The part that I want everybody to see and know is that when you do clear a path for yourself, no matter how that looks or how that occurs or how you have to do that for yourself, what you find on the other side of that is so expansive, so delightful, so incredible, and life really does get to be great. And I think for me, it's important for women to hear that you actually will care about living again. You actually will get to a place within yourself and within your life that you hope there are many more years ahead of you to experience more of who you are and what's available to you. Because more than hating ourselves or hating our life, I think the most uncomfortable way of being is when we realize we're just tolerating everything. And I think that's the most dangerous state to find ourselves in. If you hate something, you might do something about it. If you hate something, you might let people know that. But when you find yourself in the sticky state of just like settling and tolerating and just letting things be and going with the flow, that's the really dangerous space to find ourselves in as women, because in that place, the years roll by and the color starts to drain from us and life starts to just become this series of, I guess, events unfolding that we feel like we have no control over and we don't take any delight in, and we just wonder for ourselves, like, what's it all for? And so I want you to know that there will come a time in your life where you really will care again. I love my life and I love myself so much. And I wake up every day just delighted to, get to know the inner being within me and to operate the human that I function as in this world. And, the Lena of 5 years ago couldn't even imagine having that kind of like zest for life again.
Wow. See, ladies, if you're listening to this, I want you to see Lena's just a beautiful role model for us to look at. And what fascinates me is I see it, you probably see it in your business, I see it in my business, so many mamas that come in and they are so drained, like you said, they are literally putting one foot in front of the other, because perception is we look outwards and we see everyone else doing the thing, happy family, white picket fence. We both know that's not true, but we look at them and think, oh, that mum's got her shit together, or wow, look how amazing. And obviously a lot of mums lose your identity, lose who they are, lose that. They don't realize how, I hear it a lot from new mums especially, how much free time, what did they do with their time before they became a mum? Like they're like I didn't take note of all the spare time I used to have. And I see a lot of women get into the mum role and they just squash themselves, like literally squash themselves for probably 13, 14 years. And then they get to that point where they go, oh, okay, I'm really deeply unhappy. And I'm just wondering, like, with how you are right now today as a mama, what goes through your mind? Is it, do you still get those thoughts that pop up when you want to go do something for yourself? How do you tackle that within you if there's a mum out there that's listening to this and they want to do something for themselves, but the inner chatter in their mind is like, no, you've got to be, or it's almost probably a primal thing that they want to be like, I've got to care for my family. And if I don't do this, I'm not enough. I'm not good enough. My child will suffer. Is there anything that goes in your head or something that you can share with the mums out there to help them? Hey, if you're thinking like this, you're not alone. And this is what I do on those days.
Absolutely. I first just want to say that you touched on it beautifully in saying like it is a really primal, almost guttural instinct we have as caregivers, that it is initially, and I mean, my son's 4 years old now and I still experience it within myself, hard to remove ourselves from these little precious beings that we relate to as the greatest loves of our life. And instinctively, we know we are put on this earth to protect them. So anytime that we kind of want to prioritize ourselves, shift our gaze, move our energy away, it feels unnatural. And so I just want to offer to any caregiver listening, if that's the way you feel, honor that as a really beautiful thing, because there are a lot of caregivers who struggle with the opposite of that, they long to feel like that, and they, reach out for support because they don't feel like that. That appears as postnatal depression. That can appear in many other ways. So our perceived problem can become a problem, but actually it's such a natural instinct that you're experiencing. There's nothing wrong with you for feeling like that. I think it's inbuilt in us to have that instinct. But what we know is that as women who are in a world which requires us to be, I think, multifaceted and to be three-dimensional in many ways, it is really important for us to know that if we don't first give to ourselves, we're not going to be able to give to anybody else. And for me, I prioritize the time that I take for myself in the morning daily, because what I believe and what I know to be true is that I don't just want to be doing things for my son. I don't want to be building a relationship that is kind of reflective of acts of service. Like I just do the things that I'm supposed to do for him as his mum. What's most important to me is the experience that he has of me. And so I could have two very different mornings, right? We all have to do the things that we have to do to look after kids, but I could do, the things that I have to do to get him ready in the morning before he goes to daycare out of a sense of kind of like duty and feeling a kind of manic energy within me and feeling rushed, maybe feeling a little resentful, feeling overwhelmed within myself. Or when I take the time to prioritize myself and do the things that I have worked out actually make a difference. And please let me come back to that point again, because this is important too. When I take the time to do the things that actually make a difference for me, that I know serve me, that allow me to connect with who I am and allow me to remember what it is I actually want to experience of myself and what I want to share with my son and my husband, then I come and do those very things that I'm obligated to do because I'm his mother, but with an entirely different energy. And so it's not just how I experience myself in the moment. I'm conscious and aware of the fact that who I choose to be and how I manage and maintain my own energy doesn't just impact me in the way I experience the world. It's going to experience the way my son and my husband and the people closest to me also experience me. And that really matters to me. I want to know myself as somebody that uplifts and supports and holds a beautiful space for other people. That's what I've decided for myself. And because that's important to me, I have to go first. And so when I choose not to do those things, when I choose potentially to just stay in the crunchiness that I wake up with, what I also know for myself is, well, then I'm choosing not to bring the best of who I know I can be into the world today. And that actually feels more selfish to me than deciding to just take 20 minutes to center myself and realign myself to what's important to me.
Gosh, that's so insightful. And I think a lot of women will resonate with you because they'll feel alone. Women do not talk about this, do not share this. And just even giving the permission piece, it's okay. You feel like this, I feel like this. But I want to ask you a question too with what is, you touched on there that you do stuff to look after yourself, to be able to be a better person, to be able to give more to those that, you know, you love and you're surrounded by. So with that, what does self-care mean to you? And right now, what do you do as your own self-care? Because it may give, like, that's one of my names, my business. This is, you know, a studio chat podcast, but my business is Self-Care Studio. So a lot of people think self-care, but you may be able to share something with someone that I had no idea that was self-care.
Yeah. You know, what I want to say first is, as I became a mum, I found this part really tricky. Reimagining and reinventing what this was to be for me was really hard, because before I had my son, I had the luxury and privilege of kind of just being able to take all the time that I needed and, you know, make the day look exactly as I had wanted it to, particularly mornings. Mornings are kind of the time of day that I feel kind of most powerful for me. And so I had been able to just curate and cultivate just ideal mornings for myself. There was nothing but me that would stop me from doing that. And so once I had my son, obviously that's a whole new experience of life, because you actually don't get to choose for yourself what the morning is going to look like. You haven't chosen what the night before looks like, which impacts the morning. And it's just this whole flow on effect. And what I quickly realized was any kind of like ideal vision I had for what the morning would look like and feel like as this mother, just wasn't going to unfold for me. And that felt really clunky to begin with. And I felt myself being really overwhelmed with the hard reality of that. And I felt a bit stupid, because I thought, how did I not anticipate that, you know, I wasn't going to be able to take care of myself in all the ways that I had taken care of myself. And I share that because I think sometimes women shut down the desire or the longing or the awareness that they need to take care of themselves, because they can't do it in the ways that they had always done it. And it's really important that we give ourselves a little bit of grace. We understand, like, you don't even, you know, when you first have a child, you're so sleep deprived, and it's just such an intense, insane experience. It can be really easy to use any kind of like space you have within your brain or your body or your energy to just best prepare for what's going to happen next with your child. And I think that's how we lose sight of ourselves. So what I want to offer straight away is that we need to realize that this is a new chapter of who we are. And so everything is going to have to look and feel different, and that's okay. And the longer we kind of expect that the experience of who we were pre-child is going to be what we have to again kind of like build up and replicate post-child, that I think is our biggest barrier. So if you can get yourself into a headspace of, I'm getting to know myself as this version of me, and I actually don't know who I am as a mother, I'm finding out every day. And so I get to ask myself, and I get to be in conversation with myself, and I get to respond, and I get to curate self-care that has looked totally different to anything that I have ever experienced or I thought I might want as a mum. And so for me, I think it happened slowly and it evolved over time. And I realized for myself that the thing that was frustrating me the most was that I have always been a person that really liked exercise, and I leveraged movement as a thing to kind of like shift funky energy out of me, welcome new energy into me. I loved the whole experience of it, listening to music, all of that. And I quickly realized that, well, I'm not going to be able to just go to the gym every morning. I'm not going to be able to go outside. I'm not going to be able to do the things that I want to do. And so I had to get creative about, well, how can I actually make this happen for me? And so for me, and I suggest this to any woman who also enjoys exercise and knows herself to be a person that's uplifted by movement, I hired a spin bike and I had it delivered to my house. And I figured, well, it's in my lounge room. It's here. I don't have to go anywhere. It's a very safe exercise to return to post-baby. I had a C-section, and I just started with that. And I held myself accountable to just getting on the bike. And for whatever reason, the number 7 resonated with me. And I was like, you're going to do 7 minutes every morning. And I just started with that. And I started with the bare ass minimum of what I felt I could manage to do. And it was really challenging for me to see the way that I had gone from being somebody who would do like hours in the gym to being this woman who like was having to motivate herself to do 7 minutes on a bike. But I just held the vision for how I wanted to feel within myself and within my body and within my life. And I just allowed myself to take as long as it was going to need to be in order for me to just kind of like find a new rhythm within my life. And so it was just this slow and steady build. And I think for most women, if you can understand that the great expectations and the goals that we set for ourselves and the standard that we think is going to motivate us and uplift us is actually the thing that crushes us and makes us feel defeated during seasons of our life where really the bare ass minimum is an achievement for ourselves. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, no, just thinking there when you said that, this, because I know a lot of women in general will be listening to this podcast right now thinking, well, I don't even do any exercise. And a lot of us tie exercise with weight. So only reason why, and I love just listening to what you said then, because none of that screamed, I want to change my body. None of that screamed to me, I want to lose weight or whatever that most of the fitness industry talks about. Most women think that to do exercise is only to change your body. It's not functional movement. It's not for anxiety or depression or just to feel good. And the more that you move your body, the better you actually feel, the better you sleep, and all that kind of stuff. But I'm just wondering, there's a lot of ladies that will be listening to this that aren't active, that really, and ladies, I don't want you to think of this as a losing weight piece or changing your body. I'm doing it for mental health and all that kind of stuff. But women will be listening going, oh, that's good, Lena, but how did you get motivated? Because a lot of people will be thinking, yeah, I want to exercise, whether I've had a baby or not. Great to hear that you did 7 minutes on the spin bike. I couldn't even, someone will be thinking, I can't even do that, but I can't even motivate or get my head to do that.
Love, thank you so much for this question, because it matters a lot to me. And I don't suggest that anybody starts exercising if that's not something that their inner being is suggesting they do. The way that I got motivated and the way that I'm consistently motivated to do anything in my life is that I get to be really quiet with myself and really feel in to the experience of who I am. And I listen. When I'm confused within myself and I don't know what to do, I have learned to develop a relationship with source outside of myself, and I listen and I ask for guidance, and I ask of myself, and I ask from, God, source energy, whatever it is that I'm connecting with out there, please guide me and show me what it is that I would need. And I think, that's probably quite an overwhelming thing for any woman who hasn't quite yet established a spiritual connection for herself. So let's scale that right back and say the way that we get motivated is not by setting a goal and thinking that's the thing that's going to make us feel better. Actually, we come back into the moment with ourselves. And from there, we just ask ourselves, what is it that you need? What would feel good right now? What would feel better than the way that I feel right now? What is it that I need? And if you get quiet enough, you will have an answer just drop within you. And it could be, you just need to just chill out, and you go, okay, and so what do I need to do that? Maybe it's go have a shower and just relax. Maybe it's put on some music. Maybe it's make yourself a nourishing breakfast. Maybe you need to be around people, call your friends, whatever it is, the answer will arise within you. And when you feel that come from a place of deeper knowing, motivation isn't required anymore. You're guided, you're led, you're called forward, and you don't need to be motivated when you are inspired. So I would suggest to any woman who has lived her whole life thinking that it's motivation she needs, I want to redirect you back to self. I want you to ask yourself to forgive yourself for having drunk the Kool-Aid of that bullshit.
And many of us have, right? Yes, many of us have.
Myself included, you know.
Me too.
And remember that it's not motivation that we need. It's inspiration. It's guidance. It's knowing. And that is all available to us, but only when we decide to know and to remember and to reclaim the relationship we get with ourselves and our own inner knowing.
Lena, that's just freaking beautiful, because it ties in with everything that people hear me say all the time. Connecting with yourself. Don't diet, don't weigh your food, don't calorie count. What do I feel like? How does this feel within me? What do I want? Like, we never stop and ask ourselves, how do we feel? What do we want? What are we doing? We're too busy just living externally. And you brought that. I could not even have asked you to put that together so beautifully, to share with women that, see, everything's all tied. Everything's all tied to your gut. What do you feel like? If something's off, it's off. But ask yourself, whatever stage or season in life you are in, you matter. And, you know, by listening to your inner voice and listening to what you need, you can be a better wife, a better partner, a better mum, a better sister, a better auntie, a better whatever, because you're full. So you've got more to, you know, do you find that that's true, that the more that you give to yourself, giving to everyone else is just, it's easy, but it's so much easier.
I couldn't give to anybody else before I gave to myself. You know, I've gone through seasons of my life that I've been a completely toxic person. I think we can all be really toxic when we're not, you know, consciously aligned to who we actually want to be, and we're allowing ourselves to just be like impacted by life. But we always get to choose, no matter what we've done, no matter how many missteps we've taken, no matter how lost we feel within ourselves, we get to choose, who am I to be now? And let me just share, it still shocks me sometimes when I look in the mirror and I see the softening that has occurred, like within my mind, within my energy, and within my body. So I never actually, like, women always talk about bouncing back after having a baby.
Yeah.
I never bounced back. I never bounced back. I never went back to who I was. And I think it's actually counterintuitive to ever position yourself to think you're supposed to go backwards. You get to go forwards. And, you know, if going forwards and embodying who you now are as a woman that has brought a child into the world does include losing a certain amount of weight, looking a certain way, that's fine. But for those of us who have this shift within us that realize that I'm not going to relate to myself or my body in parts anymore, and I'm more interested in experiencing myself as a whole being, we get to kind of relate to ourselves differently. And because I did that, there hasn't been the same focus on using exercise to shape and mold my body in a certain way. And that still shocks me sometimes. I'll look in the mirror and I'll be like, oh my goodness, are you actually really doing this? Are you actually allowing yourself to be different? Because I had only known myself in one way for most of my adult life. And to see myself literally transform in this way, it still shocks me sometimes. But, you know, I think that's all part of really devoting ourselves to being a woman that gets the full experience of this life. I don't just want to know myself in one way. I want to get to change and transform and respond to what's happening in front of me, not just what's happening within my mind and the way that I think I should be. Because a lot of what we think and a lot of what we kind of have decided are our ideals are things that we decided a really long time ago for ourselves. And I think we all need upgrades in our thinking, and we all need upgrades in our own ideals. And I think it's a really important thing to really question the pressure that you're putting on yourself to be a certain way, and just ask of yourself, I've asked myself this many times, when did I decide that there was only one way for me to be? And when did I decide that that was the best way for me to be? And how do I even know that to be true if I've never let myself experience myself in any other way? we talk about like our intuition as women, and we relate it to being suspicious. Like we see red flags, or I knew something was off, I knew something was wrong. So we are aware of our intuition. But what I like to invite people to do all the time is understand that we're not just given intuition to kind of like have us look at the world through a suspicious lens. We get to use our intuition to really guide us to what's meant for us. And so if you know within you that your way of being and who you have tried to be is starting to feel like it's really upstream, it's really hard being you, it's really hard to be motivated to do the things you say you want to do, I think that's your intuition guiding you away from that. And I think if you could learn to listen to the signs of like, oh, I just can't stay motivated, or I'm just not excited, I'm not lit up, I'm finding this so hard, as being your intuition gently tapping you on the shoulder and saying like, you might want to slow down, you might not want to do that. Then you'll kind of find yourself open to focusing on things that actually do make you come alive again and do feel effortless and easy. I think we've kind of all prioritized achievement, and we've felt that, in order to have a life that is successful and fulfilled, it means that we have to work really hard. And so we've kind of accepted when it feels really hard to be us, that just means that we're striving for something great. And I like to challenge that. I think that's bullshit. And I think actually we get to have a life that feels really great in a way that we can activate really easily. And when we get to that place, we kind of have this exhale and we realize like, life was never supposed to be this hard. Why did I believe that it had to be hard in order for it to be valuable? And I think if you can feel that you're just tired, like I know a lot of women, we say like, I'm just exhausted, and we don't mean that in the sense that we want to go to bed. We just mean that we're sick of, like you said, being on the hamster wheel, and we want to stop and we want to get off. I think you really need to tune in and listen to that inner knowing that's desperately trying to be heard.
Yeah. And before we wrap up today, I just want to say thank you for sharing how vulnerable you are, right? How vulnerable you were after you had a baby, to look in the mirror, to look at your body, and how you shared that it had softened. Now, I know a lot of women would look at your body pre, during, after, and just think, holy shit, she's absolutely my dream. Like and you would hear this too from people, oh, what I would do to look like you, what I would do to have your body, you're so lucky, right? And it's kind of that attachment where people may see you in your gym or your business and you train damn hard, but it comes from a different avenue. It's not focused on this is I want to look a certain way. And what I want women to hear right now is to hear how vulnerable you were to beautifully share that I look in the mirror and some days I feel this. And what I want women to hear is, you know what, ladies, even if you have your dream body, the most perfect body you've ever wanted, if you could have that tomorrow, guarantee you would still look in front of the mirror and not like yourself. And we have this misconception. I know I did. I was like, oh, I know if I looked a certain way, my life would be blah. And when I did look a certain way, I was still thinking exactly the same. And a lot of women think when I lose the 10 kilos or when I look a certain way, I will just be happy. And it's really refreshing to hear all of us, every single woman out there has days, even when we care for ourselves, we look after ourselves, we will still look in the mirror and go, don't quite like you today. Don't like that little muffin top thing there. I don't like that stretch mark. We're human and we all have those days. And just remember that when you've given birth, however way you have, to a beautiful baby, that I hear a lot of women in that first 12 months beat themselves up. And I'm like, from someone that hasn't had a child, but I'm the last of the rank, so I know so much about it. And I think, do you know your body has just done so many marathons? You need to rest, you need to recover, and you need to just let go. And now the whole media and everything is, you almost need to look better after having a baby than you did before. And I think, oh my God, how is that even possible? Right? Do you see that now?
It's expected. And it's the thing that we comment on most about women after they have had, let's not even say after, during pregnancy, the obsession and the audacity we have to comment on a woman's body while she's pregnant. already occurs. Like the focus is always on the physical. And I know we need to wrap this up, but I will say it's a topic that is very sensitive to me because I had a very challenging pregnancy with my son. And at 28 weeks, my placenta wasn't functioning properly and basically he stopped growing. So my pregnancy stalled. It was slow. I wasn't growing at the rate that I should. And, you know, that's not something, when you're going through something, I wasn't sharing it with everybody. Of course, the people closest to me knew, but people that were just acquaintances would see me in the street, not knowing what I was experiencing and say, oh my God, look at you. You look amazing. You're so tiny, while I was pregnant. Not knowing that I desperately wanted my body to just be growing and expanding and stretching and giving life to this child that I was trying to bring into the world. So I think for me, I'm sensitive around any kind of commentary about how a woman should look during pregnancy, and any idea that we're supposed to look compact and cute while we're pregnant, it angers me. I think you can hear it in my voice because, you know, that I don't know who decided that for us. I don't know who decided that post-birth we're supposed to just snap back as if, you know, the greatest thing in our lives has not just occurred for us and our body's not supposed to reflect that. And I think we get to stand up and start saying like, nah, I call bullshit on this whole conversation and I'm not buying into it. And I think we begin by being really careful and conscious about the conversations we have with the women around us when they are pregnant, when they have had their babies, and to just not engage in that dialogue. There's so much else that we can talk about when a woman has birthed a human into the world. It's the most incredible experience, you know? And yeah, I just think, I don't know.
Coming from someone that, hey, in the next couple of years, I might be lucky enough. I haven't written that off for myself yet. So, hey, in the next couple of years, watch the space. We don't know. But I'm sensitive too with the body image, how I've been brought up and how I feel about my own body. And I'm very an advocate for anyone that is pregnant, that how your reaction was, I have that exact same reaction, and I haven't had a baby. And I'm very protective over women, and I will come down hard on anyone that will ever say anything because you don't know, you know, okay, this is going to go a bit over time, but I just want to share something from someone that, ladies, I'm a real novice when it comes to the pregnancy side of things and stuff, but I learned something quite recently that was so distraught to me, Lena, was I know a lot of women miscarry and have to go through that stuff, but I've spoken to quite a few ladies recently that have opened my eyes that some women have miscarriages on the bottom, sitting on the floor of, you know, I hope this doesn't trigger anyone, and I will put a thing in my podcast notes, but I'm a woman, and I felt like I should have known this, that when some women miscarry certain weeks, it's like giving birth and the pain. And I've had probably half a dozen women in the last few months that have shared different things with me. And I'm like, look, no one can see my face. You can see my face. I was like, I'm a woman. Holy shit. Like, I know people talk about that side of things, but I was in shock that that's sometimes how that happens. Like, I just had no idea. And then again, when you're seeing a lady that's whatever stages of pregnancy, how dare someone ever, you do not know what that woman's been through to even comment. And do you know what the other, and see, I'm very passionate about it. You know what the other thing I get really antsy about? Do you know that little baby in the tummy can hear everything? Do you know the baby in the tummy, their neurological brain wiring is happening now? So if you're saying, if you're with a partner that's telling you you're ugly and fat, guess what the baby's picking up? You're ugly and fat. People don't understand how powerful words are. And this whole new thing, because it's in my business now, and what I'm doing is my gift to help other women is I'm diving deep on things I know nothing about. And that's why I loved having you on my podcast today, because that whole area is, I can't relate, I can't share. I'm very honest with my clients, but I've learned so much that you've shared with me today, and I continue to learn. And I'm just like, oh my God, ladies, you are fucking amazing that you're a mum. And what the, like, I think every woman in this world should be given a gold medal and a massive fucking trophy that they stick on their wall that I gave birth to a baby. Like, I cannot comprehend. It is so brushed under the carpet. Oh, you've had a baby, or you've had a C-section, you've had a whatever birth you've had, and you're walking around and doing the groceries, and I'm like, man, I'd be sitting there on my palace stool going, can everyone bring me stuff? Because I've just had a baby and you're all going to be like my slaves because I've just done this. Like, my mindset is, I don't know how women just keep going. They're so powerful. They're so strong. But in some cultures in Japan and China and things like that, the woman doesn't do anything for about, I don't know, 8 weeks. They sit there and they get waited on and they rest and they recover. And I'm like, yes. Why aren't we doing that, ladies? And where's your trophy? Where's your massive accolades that I will personally say to any woman I know, you're fucking incredible. Oh my God, I can't believe you did that. And so many, oh no, it's nothing. Oh, shut up, Barbara. God, you're weird. Like, it's not even a big deal. So many women do it every day. And I'm like, I'm sorry? Do you understand what you've just done, what your body has done, what you've just created? Why are you so quick to dismiss it? Oh, shut up, Barbara, that's weird. Everyone does it. I'm like, you're fucking incredible.
Yeah. And I think, as women, we need to protect other women. And, I talk about feminine energy a lot and the way that it is perceived to be. And it can be experienced as this really gentle, flowy, easy kind of like energy. But for me, my most potent experience of feminine energy is that kind of like mama bear energy, where at the right moment, if provoked, I will rip you open. And, we experience that with our children. But I think knowing that that's a part of us, we can also extend that to the women around us. And when we have a woman who is pregnant or just given birth, she is vulnerable. We know that she is, experiencing something for the first time every time. Even if you've had 6 children, this is the first time you have given birth as this version of you to this child with your body in this way. Our hormones are doing their thing through pregnancy and afterwards. So I think it's up to all of us women who get this and who feel this at a really like primal, deep level to stand up and to protect the women around us and say, you know what, you don't have to go out and prove anything to the world. Nothing at all. And you do get to just sit and reflect and be in the juicy yumminess of, being a new mum with this new little bundle of life that is dependent on you. And yeah, so I think having people like you that can stand up and can speak and be the voice of kind of inspiration and support and all of that. You don't need to have a child to be able to speak to this, to be able to speak to how much we need to be cared for and nurtured and loved any time that we are experiencing something significant in our lives, whether that's a breakup, whether that's having a baby, whether that's, somebody in our life passing away, whether that's just a global event like COVID, right? We've all needed to be supported and nurtured and allowed to just stop and be as we kind of like collect ourselves and get to know ourselves again. So I thank you for sharing and showing that, it doesn't have to be a woman that's had a baby that can advocate for you and that can support you. It can be any being, really, I think, that is able to, just be a little bit empathetic, right?
Yeah, I will advocate for any woman. Yeah, you look out, you meet me, and I'm a Leo. I'm a true Leo, and I'm a lion, and don't poke me. But I just want to thank you for so much. We've just covered so much, but I know that there's going to be ladies that are listening going, I resonate with Lena. I want to know more about her. I want to work with her. Like, how can ladies find you?
Please do come and find me on Instagram, really simply at Lena. My name is spelled Lena_Moxon. Let me know that you've connected. I always feel like, Barbs, I wonder if you feel like this too. Once somebody has like connected with you, it's like, haha, I've magnetized you. You're in my world now, and I'm going to love on you, and I'm going to get to know you, and I'm going to, share my energy with you. But more so because, ladies, I just want to be very clear. I'm going through a transition within myself for that. I'm aware of my power and I'm aware of how passionately I want to share my work, but I'm still feeling a little bit confused about what that looks like. So every time a woman comes to me and says, like, I connected with you and this is what I heard and this is what I got for myself, it actually helps me. It actually would be really supportive if you did that. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. I love having our chats. I know this is just going to be the beginning for us, that we're going to have, catch up on podcasts every once in a while, but just thank you so much for your time. And I know my listeners, go check Lena out, and just thank you for being on Studio Chat today.